David here with Figboot on pens. These are very trying times that we're living in. It seems like taking time to talk about a fountain pen, or in the case of today's video, an ink, it just feels rather meaningless. There's so many more important things going on in the world right now that warrant discussion, and I felt like I needed to at least acknowledge that. Typically, I wouldn't, but there's just something about recent events which feels a bit different, and I thought it was an appropriate time to share a personal experience. As a white male, systemic sexism and racism isn't something I typically have to deal with. There was, however, an occasion about 30 years ago when I did. I had applied for a job at a local television station to be an associate producer for a morning show called Sun Up San Diego. Something at the time which would have been a dream job for me. After an interview, which I felt went well, I was flat out told that if I was a woman or a minority, then I would have gotten the job. But since I wasn't, then I wouldn't. Now, that really hurt. I mean, I really wanted that job. And I wasn't rejected because of a lack of qualifications. I was treated differently because of my gender and the color of my skin. And they flat out told me to my face. You know, that single incident had stayed with me for over 30 years. And I can understand how, if you were presented with similar situations, or worse, on a regular basis, or were in fear of your life on a regular basis, and see it happens to friends and family on a regular basis, so many times that you lose track for your entire life, how those frustrations can turn into anger. And how when presented with recent incidents, that anger can easily turn into rage. I'm not trying to say that my experience equates in any way to what others deal with, but it gave me just a taste of what it's like to only be categorized by my outward appearance, not by who I am as a person. And that's something that no one else should need to experience. So, what can I do? I can continue to be my best to be a good person with respect for all, regardless of race or color or creed or orientation. And also work to make this channel a place where all are welcome. And in a day where reading the news can be extremely depressing, I continue to do these reviews as an escape, for me as much as it is hopefully for you as well. Something to bring a bit of normalcy back to our lives, even if it is for only 10 or 15 minutes at a time. Okay, enough about world events. As I attempt to not make this transition awkward, let's actually talk about more pleasant things, a fountain pen ink. The ink I have for you today is from a company by the name of Ferris Wheel Press. The company is based out of Canada. They are located just outside of Toronto and have been in business as a print shop for over a decade. Late in 2018, they launched their own ink line via a successful Kickstarter campaign, and since then, they've expanded that ink line as well, producing a fountain pen. The ink that I'll be showing you today is called Bluegrass Velvet. And in order to take a closer look, please join me over here at camera 2. So here we have Ferris Wheel Press Bluegrass Velvet. Ferris Wheel Press does a very good job on their packaging. Everything looks really, really cool. And what's even cooler is this ink bottle that's in here. It sits inside this pouch. Now, I will say that I've noticed that if you actually try to put the bottle all the way inside the pouch, the lid won't close all the way. So I think it's sticking out this way by design. And inside, we have the ink. Let me set this stuff aside. And here is the bottle. These are really nice 85 milliliter bottles, and it's probably one of my favorite lids on any bottle. It's a metal screw. It has some weight to it, and I will say that just like spinning it closed is rather satisfying, and I like the kind of the bolt shape on it. I will say that the neck on this bottle is a little on the thin side. It handles the vast majority of my pens, but there are a few oversized pens that don't fit in here. But overall, I do love the look and feel of this bottle, and like I said, I love this cap. In regard to what the ink looks like, There it is. It's a very nice kind of warm velvety blue color, kind of blue with a little bit of green in it. I find it very similar to something like the Monteverde iced cookie. Here it is with the Pelican Edelstein Aquamarine and Mont Blanc Blue Hour, the Twilight Blue. This is the Waterman Mysterious Blue. We have KWZ Turquoise and Ackerman Blau Groen. And then finally, Sailor Yamadori. In regard to some of the other colors that Ferris Wheel Press offers, they have such things as Pumpkin Patch. I do really like that color. Another one of my favorites is this Jelly Bean Blue. It has a bit of sheen to it. There is a Tanzanite Sky, a Grape Ice Pop. There's this Pink Eraser. There's Candy Marsala, which is a nice red. There's Buttered Popcorn and Peppermint Drop. Then they had a new line of 6 different inks that are very light pastels. I can't say that these are my favorite inks, but that's just a personal choice. I just don't have much use for some of these really, really light pastel-y colors, but other folks might love them. There is this Strawberry Macaroon. Then there is Sweet Honeydew. There's Blue Cotton Candy, Little Robina, or Robina. There's Lady Rose, which is kind of a dusty rose color. And then finally, Cream of Earl. Oh, I forgot to mention, beside the 85 milliliter bottles, they also have these things called the Charger sets. And what these are a set of 3 5 milliliter samples, which are a real nice way to try out 3 different inks. And again, have real nice little packaging to them. So this is what the Bluegrass Velvet looks like on Tomoe River 52 gram paper. This is with a Q-tip swab, and then this is more of a smear. You can see you can get a little bit of shading out of there. And in regard to bleed through, there's pretty much very little ghosting, and there's just a little bit bleed through, but that's only because I had a huge application of ink on here. So here we have Ferris Wheel Press Bluegrass Velvet. This upper portion here is written with this 2.4 millimeter Pilot Parallel. And it has a number of different passes over here with the parallel getting subsequently darker. This is Rhodia 80 gram paper. I will say that the ghosting and bleed through is low on here, as you can see. The shade, I would say, is a medium. You can see you can get some shading out of here when you lay down a thicker application of the ink, and the sheen is low. In regard to pens, the first pen we have is the very first fountain pen I ever purchased, which is this Lamy All-Star. So we have the Lamy All-Star. And this is a fine nib. Then next up, we have a pen from Benu that is very special. This is called the Golden Flame. This was a limited edition series of 30 pens that they came out with that has some material that's inside of the resin, but then it is hand painted on the outside with paint that actually has gold flakes incorporated into the paint. This is just very, very beautiful, and I like how the material inside almost looks like the sparks coming off the flame. It's just something very creative and very different and very unique, and I like it. And it is a medium nib. So we have the Benu Golden Flame. And this is a medium stainless steel nib. And then finally, we have one of my favorite pen companies of late, which is Leonardo, and this is a Leonardo Momento Zero. And this one is, I believe it's called the Red Coral model. And so we have the Leonardo Memento Zero. And this is a stub nib. Now, if you've seen any of my previous ink reviews, I typically tie in a movie that somehow relates to this ink. I was thinking about talking about some of my favorite, or one of my favorite Canadian films, but then I decided, why talk about one when I could actually talk about three? So, in the writing sample for the Lamy, we have the first movie on my list of fantastic Canadian films, which is The Sweet Hereafter. The Sweet Hereafter is an extremely well-made film by the auteur Adam Egoyan about how a small town deals with tragedy. I will say it is not a happy film. It is kind of heavy, dealing with heavy subjects. But one of the things that I really like about this film is it has tons of symbolism, especially relating to color. So if you're into films with symbolism and like to take movies apart and kind of tear them apart in regard to symbolism and meaning and things like that, The Sweet Hereafter is one that's really good to do that with. Next up, with the Bennu, is another one of my favorite recent Canadian movies, which is Room. I said, Room is a story about the lengths a mother will go to protect her child. I really don't like to talk too much about this film and about the plot. Just know that Brie Larson, the main actress in this movie, won an Academy Award for her performance, and it's an amazing film as well. And the child actor, I don't recall their name, did an amazing job as well. And finally, with the Leonardo, the crowning achievement in Canadian cinema, which is the 1979 classic Meatballs. I said, Meatballs is a fun film with Bill Murray in his element as an actor. It will make you want to go to summer camp. It is funny, it is silly, it is ridiculous, and it's one of those movies that I can watch over and over again, and for me, it doesn't get old. Actually, a recent film that was very, very good is called The Way, Way Back. And in that film, Sam Rockwell played a character that can virtually is virtually identical as Bill Murray in Meatballs. I think that he owed a lot in his performance to Bill Murray on that. I'd say the ink here has a medium flow to it. In regard to drying time, for a fine nib, at 10 seconds it was pretty much done. But for a medium nib, it was between 15 and 30 seconds before it finally dried. And I said that Ferris Wheel Press has a nice line of well-behaving inks. The large 85 milliliter bottles are $36 through the Ferris Wheel Press site, and the charger sets sell for $15. They're also available through a number of other fountain pen retailers as well. In regard to some waterproof testing, let's put a little bit of water on here. And as that sits, let's take a look at the chromatography. I really enjoy creating these chromatography strips. I think it's interesting to see the color breakdown and see how the colors can separate. In this one, you're going to see the light blue and then a little bit of pink and a little bit of red and then some green and a little bit of blue. And then in the end, this is what it looks like. So you can see that it's mainly blue, but then we have some other highlights in here that kind of gives it the velvety look to it. Okay, in regard to the waterproof test, and they don't contest that this is a waterproof ink, and that holds up, that there's a lot of it that came off there. So I wouldn't say that this is waterproof by any means, but overall, this still is a very nice ink. So there we have Ferris Wheel Press Bluegrass Velvet. I'm really glad I had an opportunity to check out these inks. I wanted to thank Ferris Wheel Press for providing these inks for review, and I strongly recommend you check them out, whether it be at the Ferris Wheel Press site or at one of the associated retailers. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.